Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm sure Kimbaloye in Abuja. Let's begin tonight by continuing our countdown to the 2023 presidential and national assembly election, which is now 63 days away. And we are anticipating, looking forward to the very big day for Nigerians as they anticipate to be able to elect their new leaders going into the new year. So get your PVC, everyone, and make your votes count. Let's tell you that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, taking his presidential campaign to Bayelsa State, and in the course of doing that, he met with former President Goodluck Jonathan at his Yanagwa residence in Bayelsa State. The man met behind closed doors. The Labour Party's candidate campaign ahead of the 2023 elections. The former president says Nigeria is extremely divided, and he told Peter Obi that if he wins, his first task must be to unite Nigeria. The former president also commended the presidential candidate for taking the bold step to contest the elections next year outside the two major parties. He was accompanied by his running mate, Yusuf Baba Ahmed, and party national chairman and other party and campaign stalwarts of the Labour Party. It's now time for us to check your political roundup stories. And when we return, of course, our first conversation is what is happening in the Senate. We'll also touch on the politics of Kano State, internal squabbles in the PDP. Who is the real governorship candidate of the PDP in Kano State following our court ruling from yesterday evening? We get all of those perspectives. But the Senate spokesperson will be speaking to us. A lot of issues happening in the Senate, plus the Ocean politics. Stay with me, everyone. Let's check out your political roundup stories.
There appears to be an end in sight for the current rift between some governors of People's Democratic Party, PDP, now known as G5, and the national leadership of the party after several months of internal crisis in the party ahead of the 2023 general elections. The Akwa Ibom State Governor, Mr. Udom Emmanuel, and Chairman, People's Democratic Party, PDP, Presidential Campaign Council, and its Benue State counterpart, Governor Samuel Otom, gave this indication after the private meeting at Government House, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Interacting with journalists after the meeting, Governor Emmanuel said the leadership of the party is open to peace with the G5 governors of PDP, assuring all party faithful that the reconciliation of some of its aggrieved governors will see the party close to victory in next year's general elections.
I'm pursuing that peace, and I'm seeking that peace, and I want that peace to reign. And once we can achieve that, I'm sure our party will just walk and coast into victory.
Senate Minority Leader Senator Philip Aduda is assuring Nigerians that the People's Democratic Party, PDP, is not divided and is working to win more elective positions in the 2023 general elections. Senator Aduda made a remark while speaking to journalists after the PDP Senate caucus meeting in Abuja. He says the meeting is for party members to evaluate the efficacy of its campaigns in different parts of the country, as well as interact with the party's presidential candidates.
The party is not divided, rather we are united, and we're working on ensuring that united we stand.
The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Abdullahi Adamu, is positive that the party will not lose its governorship seat again to the opposition in Bauchi State, just like it did in 2019. He expressed this optimism in Bauchi during the flag-off of the campaign for the governorship candidate of the party, retired Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, as he urges the electorate to vote for the candidates of the party at all levels. National Vice Chairman of African Democratic Congress, Mr. Anayo Arinze, is assuring citizens of Abia State of a landslide victory for all candidates of the party in 2023 general elections. Mr. Arinze stated this during the flag-off of campaign and presentation of party flags to candidates of the party in Umuahia. The Abia State governorship candidate of the party, Bishop Sunday Onowa, promises his supporters that his administration will put priority in health and education sectors if voted as governor. A chieftain of the People's Democratic Party in Sokoto State, Mr. Yushau Mohammed Kebe, has defected to All Progressives Congress APC, citing poor performance of the party in the state. Mr. Mohammed Kebe says he dumped the PDP with his supporters across the 23 local government areas of the state. He has also promised to ensure that all candidates of the APC emerge victorious in the upcoming 2023 general elections. The spate of attacks and arsons on state offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) is becoming a major cause of concern as the Center for Transparency and Advocacy is asking security agencies to walk the talk by arresting and prosecuting culprits. The group told journalists in Abuja that it's high time the security agencies stepped up intelligence gathering and make scapegoats of those arrested in connection with the recent attacks and arson on INEC facilities across the country. As the electioneering season continues to gather momentum in the country, a group under the aegis of Citizens Network for Peace and Development in Nigeria in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, is declaring support for the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the state, Mr. Siminalayi Fubara, and the APC presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Addressing journalists in Port Harcourt, the national secretary of the group, Mr. Francis Wanwe, says their position is driven by the clamor for national unity and a power shift to the south, even as they claim that Tinubu is the easiest route to a president of southern extraction, as they made donation of 1 million naira to the campaign.
So much indeed, everyone, for staying with us on the program. So let's tell you that the People's Democratic Party candidate in Ogun State and his running mate have found their way back on the ballot of INEC, and this comes as the umpire says that they have put the name of Mr. Adebutu and Mr. Akinlade's names on the ballot based on court order that they should be named the candidate of the PDP in Ogun State. There's been back and forth in the courtroom over the authentic candidate of the PDP in Ogun State. But in the past weeks, Mr. Adebutu has emerged victorious in the court, and now INEC has now enlisted both men as the flag bearers of the party. Attention will be first and foremost tonight on the Senate. What happened? They postponed the passage of the 2023 budget till next week, Wednesday. That's December the 28th. Because of problems they discovered in the budget. The Senate President Ahmed Lawan announced yesterday at plenary that they will have to postpone. He says the Senate Committee on Appropriations had to begin the process of cleaning up the budget, and that exercise was concluded on Wednesday, therefore making it impossible to pass the budget as scheduled on Thursday, December 22nd. Let me remind you of what the Senate President said.
The main reason for this is because the appropriation bill came to the National Assembly with some problems. And when our committees on appropriation in the Senate and the House started to reconcile the figures of what we have done and what was presented, the problems became very obvious and they were not easy to deal with. And therefore, our committees had to start a process of cleaning up the bill first. That process, of course, also engaged the executive arm because the problem came from there. Was concluded yesterday, only yesterday. And our committee secretariats are not able to finish processing the budget for us to take today nor tomorrow. Consequently, we can only receive the report and consider on Wednesday the 28th. That is the earliest. Wednesday 28th. That's next week.
All right. Now, you heard the explanation of the Senate president, and you probably might be wondering, what are these problems? What is this cleaning up? He said that the problem was coming from the executive arm. Now, they said they've postponed the passage till next week. What happens to the break of the senators or the members of the National Assembly? We'll get all the details of that just in a moment, because the spokesperson of the Senate, Senator Ajibala Basiru, will be joining us just in a moment. But we'll take a short break, and when we pay some bills, we'll be right back, everyone.
This is what they call 21st century. When my customer say I want to use POS, I will just bring out my phone, open the application, use this, press this code. I don't have anyone that using POS anymore.
Thank you so much, everyone. Just in a moment, before we get into speaking with the Senate spokesperson, let's tell you what really happened yesterday in Kano PDP. Interesting times, because yesterday, Federal High Court sitting in Kano affirmed Muhammad Abacha, the son of the former head of state, as a duly elected governorship candidate of the PDP for Kano State. In a ruling issued last night, Justice Lehman, the presiding judge, declared the Kano PDP governorship primary that produced Sadiq Walid invalid. Additionally, the judgment ordered that Abacha's name be declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The verdict, which was essentially given, was originally set for Thursday afternoon, but was moved to 4 p.m. All of the plaintiffs' requests indicate were granted by the court. Abacha is a plaintiff in the matter, and Wali, INEC, and the PDP are the defendants. Abacha had asked that the court declare him the winner of the primary lawfully conducted by the PDP and certified by INEC in Kano. He said that based on the Electoral Act 2022, he had scored the highest number of total votes in the election held on the 25th of May.
Today is yet another history is yet made, that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. Today, this evening, the Federal High Court here in Kano has confirmed that the gubernatorial primary election conducted under my leadership, which was officially monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission, which produced Mohamed Sana Abacha as the gubernatorial candidate in the 2023 general election, which the national leadership has gone against. They did whatever they could to infiltrate the course of justice, and today the judiciary has held their hands to make sure that justice is prevailed.
Let's now speak with Mr. Yusuf Bello, who joins us from our Kano studio on this matter. Thank you so much, Mr. Bello, for joining us tonight. how does the judgment come to you? And perhaps, well, I'll be asking, what do you think is the way out? Because I know there is yet another court case on a similar matter, bordering on who should be on the ballot for the PDP in Kano State. And as we know, Kano State for PDP, APC, Labour Party, and NPP is very crucial, and everyone wants to have a good bite of it. But what is the way forward? And how do you guys receive on your own side the judgment of yesterday?
Thank you very much, Sherwin, for this opportunity to speak about the incidents of yesterday. The last time I was speaking with you was last year during the Emir Synosis saga, where our culture was truncated by the Kano state government. And today I'm speaking to you again on a very important issue about our party, about our state, and of course about democracy in Nigeria. Mr. Sherwin, there was a very brief history about all what's happened yesterday. I believe you recall the defection of former governor of Kano State in early this year to the new formed NNPP, where he left some of the state executives of PDP to stay within the PDP and probably did something that is against the democracy. But it's not to our surprise, so the National Party took them. You know, the National Party dissolved that ESCO in March 2022, a situation that didn't go down well with the state ESCO, and they approached the Federal High Court, where Federal High Court granted them orders. And party at that time, PDP, complied. Not only complying, we make sure that we accorded and recognized the Sagagis-led ESCO up to the time when we got judgment from the Federal High Court, canceling or rather setting aside the judgment of retired Justice Taiwo in just a couple of months back. So our party has now constituted a new caretaker committee under the leadership of Alhaji Adamu Mustafa from Yobe. So the primary saga, you see, two things happened. One, you have to identify who is responsible to conduct primaries. Is it state chapter of the party or the National Executive Committee of a party? So based on our provision of our constitution, PDP, the National Executive Committee appointed National Working Committee, and also National Working Committee will now set a committee, electoral committee, that will go around states, not only Kano, to conduct primaries for the State House of Assembly, National Assembly, collectively Reps and Senate, Governorship, and of course the presidential primaries. So in May, about 9, to be precise, 9 aspirants purchased nomination forms, and we participated in primaries. 2 out of 9 decided to conduct parallel congresses under the leadership of state chairman, while 7 decided to honor and respected the national leadership of the party and conducted their own primaries at Sani Abacha Youth Center that produces Muhammad Sadiq Wali as the authentic winner. And just to buttress my point, none of the PDP electoral committees members that attended the so-called parallel congress conducted by the state chapter. So if you look at our PDP constitution, if you look at our 2022 guidelines to primary election for candidates in PDP, and all other relevant laid down laws, there is nowhere, anywhere within the content of our constitutions that give power or mandate for the state chapter to conduct primaries, talk less of producing the gubernatorial candidate. It is sole responsibility of the National Working Committee. And by extension, the state chairman is not even a member of NWC of our party. So we have instances in Nigeria where Supreme Court upturned the judgment. We have instances where the Court of Appeal also cancelled the mistakes of trial courts. And even in Kano yesterday, the trial judge, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but he erred in making a precise judgment. Because just last 2 weeks, we had a judgment at the Court of Appeal in Kano where one of the aspirants that conducted that parallel congress alongside Muhammad Abacha, Jafar Sani Bello, to approach the Federal High Court, insisted on joining Muhammad Sadi Gwali to be part of the case. And if you look at the case of Eze versus PDP 2008, if you did not participate in election, there is no reason whatsoever for anybody to join you as in his suits. So the Court of Appeal in its ruling said,
all right, let me jump in quickly. Let me jump in
whatsoever
quickly, because we are hoping at some point that we will get the other side in this matter, so that we can have a better understanding and a more robust conversation on this matter. Now, one big question is this, and my question are going to be, the two questions I'm going to ask you, and are going to be very fast and quick. One is this: did INEC monitor your own primary?
Their role, the electoral law is very clear. 2022 is very clear. INEC shall monitor all elections. So what happened? PDP sent a notification to INEC, and INEC accepted our notification. The chairman of the electoral committee also wrote a letter to INEC informing INEC that he is in Kano, he is going to conduct the election at Sani Abacha Center or so time, and INEC collected and acknowledged. And they decided to monitor election of the state chapter. And even within their reports, the report they sent to INEC and sent to PDP, they said we had 2 notification letters from the 2 groups. One from the state chapter, one from the national. And we decided to monitor the one for the state chapter. So you can look at it, the law is very clear. The law is not saying PDP must ensure that INEC to monitor the election. The law is very clear that INEC shall monitor all elections, regardless of whatever happens. There was 2 parallel elections. So the staff of INEC are not only one person.
Did INEC monitor your own? Because you have established that there were 2 parallel primaries. Did INEC monitor your own, the one where Mr. Wali emerged winner?
I was an aspirant at that time. I was contesting for the governor. I participated in the primary election at that time on the 25th of May. So I cannot be precise whether INEC are there or not, because I saw all the officials of police, DSS, civil defense, and all other relevant institutions.
Can you tell us also, so now you said it, but you're not aware. You're not aware if INEC did or not. But can you tell us who was the chairman of the committee, election committee, that the national body of the party sent to conduct the primary exercise in Kano?
His name is Chief Bumi Adu, and other members of the committee. Okay. We have Chief Bumi Adu as the chairman. We have Yusuf Dingyadi as the secretary of that committee, and we have other 5 members. And none of them participated in the so-called election conducted at Lugat House, the house of the former governor of Kano State. None of them participated. Okay. And even in the
let me quickly also ask you this. Yeah, quick one. Now, this judgment of yesterday, how are you responding to it? By way of an appeal, or what exactly are you doing?
What we are doing at the moment, we had already approached the Court of Appeal. We have already filed, because he delivered the judgment via Zoom. So we listened all the grounds. He only said the only grounds he's relying on was PDP failed to give notice of 21 days. So if that is the case, so which party did Muhammad Abacha is contesting? Is he contesting under ABGA or what? So, but be as it may, what we did this morning, we already filed our appeal, where we had over 20 grounds reasons why that judgment must be turned by the Court of Appeal by God's grace.
All right, give me a moment. Let me speak with Mr. Mohammed Jamo, who has since joined us here in our Abuja studio. Thanks so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you, Shaun.
Yeah, appreciate it. So there was a court judgment yesterday affirming that Mr. Mohammed Sani Abacha is a candidate of the PDP in Kano State. But that is not going down well with the camp of Mr. Wali. That is the deputy governorship candidate that has been speaking with us from Kano. He said he doesn't understand the grounds upon which that court has given that judgment, and they have also punctured a few areas of the judgment, and they are appealing the case. How does this come to your side?
Well, yesterday is one of those days, Mr. Shaun, where you will feel proud that you are a Democrat and you are under a democratic set of government where the rule of law governs the activities of political parties. You see, all these things started with the impunity that was put in place by the leadership of the People's Democratic Party, whereby a duly constituted committee of the party in Kano, from the state to the local government to the ward level, are fully in place. And then you want to run a Congress or a primary election. What you are supposed to do is to work together with that existing party committee that is in place. But unfortunately, some people from Abuja decided to, instead of go through the normal channel, they decided to go through the back channel. And even when they were going through the back channel, I am one of the political leaders in the People's Democratic Party in Kano. My friend and brother Yusuf, who happens to be running under the platform of the PDP too, he wanted to run for the office of the governor. When they were running for all these positions, I have advised them that instead of you people going and working with what they are planning and hatchet job over there in Abuja, let's all work together. When we work together, we will find a mantle ground whereby whoever is duly qualified can be elected.
Let me ask you a few questions,
yes,
sir. So our viewers can understand. Mr. Yusuf gave some premise upon which this crisis happened.
Yeah.
Now, you also have given a premise. So you said, look, it came from the crisis of leadership in the party.
Yeah.
Now, going into that primary, so there was a confusion as to the authentic leadership of the PDP in Kano State. Who is right to have conducted it? But it is right in law that it is only the national body of the party that conducts the primary of a governorship primary. I mean, the governorship primary in a state.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a few questions. The primary in which Mr. Mohammed Abacha emerged as winner, did INEC monitor that primary?
INEC monitored that primary, and apart from INEC monitoring that primary, let me tell you, the national body of the party are supposed to conduct the primary elections, like you rightly said, but the national body of the party can only conduct these primaries through by liaising with the local chapter at the state level. So the national body of the party wrote a letter to Mr. Sagagi, who is the state chairman of the party, recognizing him as the state chairman of the party and notifying him that 5-member electoral committee are coming over to Kano to conduct election, the primary election for the gubernatorial on a so-so date. And these people came over to Kano and showed their presence just for them later on to abscond and leave to go to another place that we don't even know.
So those committee did not attend the primary in which Mr. Abacha emerged winner?
INEC attended, which is the most important.
The committee that was sent from the national body did not attend that of yours?
They came and absconded.
Okay, so I mean, we've established those points.
Yeah.
Now, as it stands right now, they said, look, the point of law in which the judgment came out yesterday was faulted.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing? How do you receive that?
Well, the judge, the Lord, my Lord, the Justice A.M. Liman, is a very learned justice who has served several cases in this country. And we are of no right to fault his judgment because he has given his own grounds. And part of the grounds which he has given is that there is a constitutional provision that says all activities of the political party, be it their congress, be it their primaries, their finances, or whatsoever, must be supervised by the Independent National Electoral Committee. What we did in Kano was monitored by the Independent National Electoral Committee, and they have given their report to that. And even the Electoral Act has corroborated what the Constitution says. But the carrot that took place in the other place, there was no INEC there.
But there's a major problem now that before you can conduct a primary, you need to have resolved the leadership crisis in the party, first and foremost.
There was no leadership crisis in the party. Mr. Sagagi is the duly elected chairman of the party, and even the National wrote a letter in the name of Mr. Sagagi informing him that the primaries will be held.
Do you think that anything untoward happened for the abscondment which you have alleged?
Well, I will tell you, Mr. Ioche Ayu is the best person who can be able to answer how all these things happened. Because if he has not interfered in the internal happenings of the party in Kano, we wouldn't have been in this logjam that we are facing today. We are all one family of the People's Democratic Party until aliens came in from other parts of the country to interfere.
Aliens? Who are the aliens?
From Sokoto, from Jigawa, and from Benue State. I don't have to mention names.
Could this also be linked to the presidential primaries of your party?
Well, it is all intertwined. Just like the deputy governorship candidate under the other botched primary was mentioning. This all started from the time Mr. Rabiu Musa Konkosa left this party.
So he left the party in ruins.
And when he left the party, some people felt, okay, since he has gone, let us just go over and take over the party.
But the presence of Senator Shekarau, what does that bring some kind of sanity?
Yeah, Mr. Shekarau is somebody who we respect very well, and being him a serving senator now automatically makes him the leader of the People's Democratic Party in Kano. We are looking up to him too.
Let me give Mr. Yusuf some opportunity to respond to some of the things he said. You heard what Mr. Jamu has said, and upon this premise, there are fundamental issues, isn't it? What's your response?
I think, Mr. Shewin, what my brother Jamu said, it's just a very laughable matter, because when somebody knew the truth and he went contrary to the truth, it's quite unfortunate. You see, the electoral panel, by all standards, did not attend anywhere close to Lugard. On that very day, Mr. Bumi summoned all aspirants to attend a meeting at Al Mukab. It's a hotel at Yusuf Road. I was there. 8 out of 9 aspirants was there, including Mohammed Sani Abacha. And he informed us all the nitty-gritty of the primaries. And thereafter, 2 gentlemen among the aspirants made some inquiries, which they answered, and then he directed all aspirants to head to the venue of the primary election, which is Sani Abacha Youth Center. This thing is very clear. So we went there, we were there, we conducted all the election until the following morning, where Mohammed Sadi Gwali was duly elected. But unfortunately, my brother Jamu was the electoral officer of the so-called primary election conducted by Sheikh Wada Sagagi. I don't know when did National Working Committee appointed Mr. Jamu as the electoral officer. As Mohammed somebody Konkoso as the electoral at the returning officer or something. Because you see, we respect the law. And the constitution is very clear. We respect the constitution of PDP. And also PDP issued guidelines to primaries, which are also very, very clear for any aspirant that purchase nomination forms. All this information will be attached to him to go and scrutinize and read. So you see, that's why we respected the law. And that's why we were very worried. See Liman, Justice Liman, delivering this judgment, because you see, you can only deliver judgment when a provision or section or whatever within the law of the party, I mean the constitution of the party,
Yeah, let me, from that point, that because we need to wrap up this conversation, the way forward is what the people of Kano, especially your supporters in the PDP, will be looking for. I'll allow Mr. Jamo to respond to that. And perhaps as your closing thought on this matter, what do you think is the way forward?
The way forward is for Mr. Sadiq Wali, Yusuf Bello Dambata, and any other aggrieved member of the party to come forward. Let's join hands. We are extending an olive branch to all of them. Now that Mohammed Sani Abacha has been declared duly as the elected...
But they are appealing the case.
They don't even need to appeal.
Your party is in the back foot now.
How can they even
compared
appeal?
To other political parties that
how can they even appeal a judgment of a primary they call that has violated the constitutional provision that said INEC must monitor whatever it has been done, whatever the party does?
So what is the way forward?
Let them come. Let's work together. Let's form a government. We'll find a place to accommodate them.
Mr. Yusuf Dambata, is that the way to go? Would you be willing to harness resources and align forces in this sense?
You see, Mr. Shewin, there are procedures and stages. Even if the elected governor will be declared winner, an agreement will go to court and they will not change the governor from being a governor. So this is just a trial court. We have appeal court, we have Supreme Court. So we have so many instances and cases similar to this. I mentioned the case of Eze versus PDP in 2008. We have Ogun, you just mentioned Ogun now before we started this conversation. We have Delta State. We have Zamfara State. We have so many states where there was this kind of conflict. And state chapter took it upon themselves to go and conduct a parallel election.
All right, gentlemen.
So what Mr. Jamo is saying is just something, a trash. Where because they are just
Dr. Yusuf Bello Dambata, thank you so much
somebody from
for your time. We'll be looking forward to what happens, Mr. Mohamed Jamo. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, Sean.
For expatiating on this matter.
Thank you very much, Sean, for the time.
Let's switch gears now and speak with the Senate spokesperson, Senator Basiru Ajibala, who joined us virtually from Ilesha in Osun State. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us tonight. Your colleagues and you've postponed the passage of the budget. And clearly what the Senate President said was that there were errors, there were problems, and they needed to be cleaned up. And he has pointed a finger at the executive. Nigerians need some full disclosure here. What are these problems? Are they relating to budget padding?
First and foremost, I don't know what is meant by budget padding, so I can't be talking about whether anything is relating to budget padding. The reality is that one of the areas where the executive and the legislative arm must necessarily collaborate is in the area of making appropriation law. And in this regard, the draft that have been sent by the executive to the National Assembly will have to be worked upon by the various appropriation committees of the National Assembly, that is the two chambers, Senate and the House of Rep. And the way it works is that although there is a central appropriation committee, when it comes to working on the budget, the different segment of the budget as relates to the different supervisory committee of the National Assembly will have to look at it on a segment-by-segment basis. For instance, the Senate Committee on Works and Housing will look at those aspects of the budget that relate to works and housing. Those in relation to water resources will also do so. So in the process of interrogating the presentation that have been made by the executive, and of course the budget defense by member of the executive, it will discover there are certain issues that are to be sorted out, and the characteristics of the Ninth Assembly, there has to be an interface between the executive and the relevant committees of the National Assembly, and I think that has already been resolved. But because of the timeline taking us to resolve that, the final draft of the budget was not ready yesterday. Hence, the adjournment to next Wednesday, 28th of December, to finally approve, the 2020.
Senator, I was actually, you're probably reiterating some of the information that we know. It is those that we do not know that I'm asking, and that has to do with the details of the problems. What are these problems? Can you give us an example? Nigerians would like to know.
The issue, there's not really, it's not a question of what has been allocated and whether what has been put under particular ministry ought to be in those ministries. So there's a need to streamline. If you make an allocation, for instance, that has to do with construction, and that surveys under, for instance, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, that has to be put properly within the agency that has the necessary virus to be able to carry out that responsibility.
So, I mean, when the Senate president said the problem is coming from the executive, is there any kind of problem in relation to engagement with the MDAs?
Yes, the necessarily, it was in the course of engagement with the MDAs and interrogating the representative of the MDAs that these issues arose, and then there has to be a kind of a bilateral discussion between the relevant committees of the National Assembly and that of the executive. And I believe, as I'm speaking, those areas have been streamlined, and by the grace of God, by Wednesday, the clean budget will be approved by the National Assembly. And because the clean budget has been worked on a bilateral basis, we're optimistic that before the midnight 31st of December, Mr. President will assent to the bill to become law.
So the kind of problems you're talking about, before I let go of this matter, the kind of problem that you're talking about in this sense, and the issue that the Senate or the National Assembly are saying in this budget, does it amount to, or does it affect the cap of the figure presented by the president initially?
It doesn't really affect the cap, but in terms of sectoral allocation of the budget. And of course, as the National Assembly, we are not bound by the cap that have been given by the president. If, as a representative of the people, we thought that certain areas are not covered, of course, we may make adjustments in order to reflect what we think will further good government of the country. So the National Assembly necessarily are not bound by it, but at the same time, we cannot afford to be reckless, because there must be a correlation between allocation in terms of expenditure and expected revenue, particularly in the context of a heavy deficit budget that is being presented for 2023.
Right.
So we need to be cautious in terms of sectoral allocation and the cap that have been given to each of the MDAs.
So before I moved into another matter, a few people have asked me if I know what exactly was wrong, why the usual plenary room or the chambers, the plenary chambers have not been in use. Perhaps a lot of Nigerians do not understand, because they see you using smaller rooms for plenary in the last few days. For the sake of those who do not know, can you tell us briefly what is wrong and what exactly is going on in the National Assembly?
The senators and House of Reps, Nigerians must know, we are actually tenants of the Capital Territory Development Authority, who is the owner of the National Assembly. As you know, the National Assembly has not been renovated or rehabilitated since the inception of democracy. So during this budget year, there's an allocation to the FCDA to renovate the two chambers, and of course to upgrade the facilities in the premises of the National Assembly. So because of that, we had to move to one of the large committee room, and ditto for the House of Representatives. So what we are using now is a temporary place, and we have been assured that by the end of January or by mid-February, the chambers will be ready for us to relocate back to the actual chamber where we're supposed to be holding our plenary sittings.
How much does it cost to renovate?
I don't know. It's not part of my work as the Senate. I think the bureaucracy of the Federal Capital Development Authority will be in a position to answer your question.
Are you aware of, if you can clarify, 30 billion, 42 billion, those are the figures that we see that have emerged from some of the documents. Which one?
I think the proper person that has custody and information will be the FCDA, who is in charge of the construction. They will be able to know the procurement process, what has been allocated, and what is the actual and the contractual price that have been given out. I wouldn't want to engage in speculation because I'm not seized of the fact.
All right, there's been these rockers about the CBN and the National Assembly. Is there anything that Nigerians need to know in relation to the policies of that Apex Bank and how it affects the livelihoods of the Nigerian people? Because Nigerian people hold you in trust with the votes they give, those of you who are representing Nigerians in the National Assembly. And some of this policy, if there are grievances of the Nigerian people in some of these policies, it behoves on you to be able to do what is right by Nigerians. Can Nigerians trust the National Assembly to do the right thing in respect of these policies?
Shehu, I wouldn't know whether you have the opportunity to watch the proceedings of the Senate when the Senate Committee on Banks, Insurance and Financial Institutions, presided over by Senator Ubasani of Kaduna, presented his report. Quite a number of senators, including myself, expressed our reservations about the policies, particularly as regards the threshold of cash withdrawal and the effect it will have on the informal sector and traders in our community. I can remember vividly that I said that at the minimum, a threshold of 500,000 for individual should be given, and the higher threshold for company. And I think it was because of the outrage raised by distinguished senators at the National Assembly. I also remember, for instance, Senator Bukashwa from Bauchi State saying that in this area, you cannot even see banks except in the back capital. And that there are quite a number. One of the arguments that was raised by another senator, Senator Adeja from Jigawa State, is that the POS operators who are said to be about 1.4 million people had actually written to the National Assembly, and that the threshold of withdrawal of 20,000 for individual would definitely take them out of market. And this bulk of people actually are those who have not been able to get employment in the formal sector. So we are with the Nigerian people.
Nigerians are hoping that you are truly, with some of your decisions and intervention, this issue of multiple exchange rate and how some of these policies go down with the Nigerian people and the food on their table is very critical. I have less than 60 seconds to go with my conversation with you, Senator. And I'd like to take my last question on the politics of Osun State, which you are playing a major role. You are a member of the APC, but power has exchanged hands. Now, APC is no longer in control of Osun State, but there are enormous money. They're said to have debt burden. They're said to have been left by past government. Is there anything that you have to say tonight in that respect? The incumbent governor has said the governor of your party, the past governor, has left a huge debt burden on the state.
I think I will say with respect that the governor of Osun, Senator Adeleke, is only playing to the gallery. He has not come up with facts and figures, particularly as regards the bogus claim that a facility was taken after the July election. He has been challenged by former Governor Itola's spokesperson to give the fact and the detail of those that are given the loan. You cannot just say somebody has taken the loan without giving the name of the lender, the tenor of the loan, and the term. And I think I want to advise Governor Adeleke, let him face governance for now, pending the time he will be kicked out by the tribunal, because we are confident that he's just a tenant in the government house. The tribunal has closed proceedings yesterday. Proceedings have been adjourned for address January 13, and we are confident that we are going to reclaim the mandate that were given to our party. That will show people. But in the interim, since it's in the shadow, let him face governance and stop dancing to the gallery.
Senator,
governance is not about dancing, it's about working.
Yeah, that's how much we can go. Thank you so much, the senior senator, Ajibala Basiru, the spokesperson of the Senate. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. You've been speaking with us.
Yes, nice interacting with you.
In Osun State.
It's nice interacting with you, Sheung.
I appreciate it.
Regards.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Christmas is just by the corner. Christmas on my mind, and I hope it's on your mind too. And I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. I'll see you on Sunday, which is going to be Christmas Day. We'll spend Christmas night here together, everyone. I'll see you 8 p.m. on Christmas Day. Bye-bye, everyone. I'm Showa Kimale. God bless Nigeria.